Welcome everybody here. Honored to be part of this event because it's when you have the opportunity to talk about your children, it's always a beautiful occasion. Just a little bit of background of myself. When I was a little child, my father and my grandfather before my father, they had hi-fi shops. So when I grew up, my passion was for design because I was able to draw pretty well, and the business of my family was hi-fi. So when I had the opportunity to do the university, I signed to this course of industrial design in Milan. And after the graduation, my first job was with Lego toys, which was my passion number two. So I was really lucky to be selected by Lego to be a designer. Then, unfortunately, Lego decided to close all the office outside Denmark, and so they closed also the office in Milan. And so I decided to go to the first business of the family back and approach the hi-fi brand. Basically, no, I went to, the idea was to design hi-fi products. And my father said, that's a very bad idea. Why you are doing that? But I said, that's my dream, I want to do that. So today I'm exactly where I want to be, because Sonus Faber, of course, was at that time and still is the most important brand in Italy for hi-fi. The brand had a lot of big history and a big heritage, and so my idea at that time was to try to innovate respecting the original vision of the company. When I joined the company was still a small kind of company. In Italy, the overall number of people working there was around 30, and that was 2010. 2024 in Sonus Faber, we are almost 100 people, 100 persons working for the company. In Italy, only in Italy, in building loudspeakers and doing the woodwork, engineers, designers, and of course all the financial thing that I don't understand. So during this year we developed a lot of product, and we made some products that are very, let me say, close to the history of Sonus Faber, like Serafino, classic passive loudspeaker. But also we recently started to work and engineering our active solution. Started with Omnia, and then we felt the need of having a true stereo classic loudspeaker pair, and so we developed Duetto. Yeah, and when we approached Duetto, our idea was to make a true Sonus Faber speaker, so using wood for the cabinet, leather on the top, and our classic recipe for drivers, which is paper membrane for the woofer and silk dome for the tweeter. But on the inside of the speaker we have 4 different amplifiers, so 2 per each speaker. We have 2 Class D amplifiers of 250 watts for the woofer, and we have a 100 watt Class AB for the tweeter. With this configuration, of course, we have the ability to tune the response of the bass frequency using all the excursion that the woofer is able to do, and also to protect the woofer from over-excursion. So what you have is reproduction of the bass frequency, which is pretty impressive for the size, but with very low distortion. So the way we designed the digital crossover was pretty interesting, because with DSP you think you can do whatever you want, but in the reality, every filter is acting a little bit like a passive filter. So if you have filters that are altering the face of each driver, the result will be bad as you are using a passive filter. So we approached the design of the digital filter like we are approaching the design of the passive filter, the analog filter in the classic speaker. And what we do is normally we align the face of each independent driver to be parallel, but separated of a certain degree, which is our recipe, to make that wide soundstage, but don't create the illusion of this strange bubble where you have big instruments and small instruments. So, of course, the speaker is integrating all the streaming services available, so Tidal, Qobuz, Spotify Connect, Roon, Bluetooth, everything available, because we want to be open to any preference of our customers. What we have here is a member of the Homage family. Why we call it Homage is because when the company started this line of loudspeaker, they started with the idea of using some of the know-how we have in Italy in building violins. So the original idea of the founder of the company was to build the speakers like the violins were built, so using wood enclosure with this special shape that we call lute shape, because it reminds the shape of a violin. And not all of our customer knows that Sonus Faber was the first of using the lute shape, because of controlling the internal reflection, and now it's really diffused, very popular, but Sonus Faber was the first with the Guarneri Homage. So this particular line of speaker was always famous to be able to reproduce acoustic instrument and voices in a very realistic way. In this case, we have the 5th generation of the Homage family. But in this case, this is G2 because Serafino was introduced 1 generation before. Before it was only Guarneri and Amati. So what's new in this generation, 5th generation of Homage? Basically everything, because we designed it from scratch, all the drivers. And we designed all the drivers internally because we now have a team of speaker designers that are coming from the pro audio world, so the guys that do drivers for acoustic instruments. Yeah, and we decided to hire new engineers coming from the pro audio because, of course, in the pro audio you have a lot of competition and the technology is really up to date. So we are using very powerful motor system and also suspension system coming from that world, but we are still using our classic paper membrane as we always did. Some very interesting thing about this generation is that, yeah,
those off.
That's a porno moment.
Maybe I will step aside a bit.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
I don't like you.
After a week you say that?
First of all, we have a new mid-range which is equipped with a phase plug, and this plug is basically helping the dispersion of the mid-range on the out-of-axis dispersion. Because what happens in a normal cone membrane is that the internal the frequency in the internal part of the cone are cancelling each other. So, and this result in a very narrow dispersion. When you apply this technology, the dispersion goes very wide, and in this way you can improve the soundstage. Plus, the chamber of the mid-range is still a lute chamber, but it has an additional chamber that we call it intono. What the intono does is normally any acoustic, let me say, dynamic driver loaded in a box, it has a peak of impedance, which is based on the characteristic of the driver and the dimension of the chamber. peak of impedance. So it's a big peak in the response. And normally this peak, you had to handle this peak with the crossover components. To proper flatten that peak, you have to add some electric circuit, which are acting a little bit like equalizers. But in this case, since we wanted the perfect reproduction of the mid-range, we wanted to avoid that circuit. And so Intono has a little hole in the first chamber, which connect the first chamber to the second chamber, and the second chamber is tuned to kill that peak. So this way we can use less electric components, and we can have a more pure, let me say, treatment of the signal. Another important thing is that the new drivers of the new series of homage collection are equipped with neodymium magnets. And this is why, if you look at the specs, the old Serafino is heavier than the new Serafino, because we have less ferrite, because neodymium is much more efficient. Configuration is pretty simple. It's a three-way design with these two woofers in parallel and the mid-high frequency, which is using this series crossover, which is a more simple way to do crossover design. The recipe is the classic Sonus Faber recipe. So paper membrane for the mid-range and silk dome. Plus, we are using our patented DAD technology, which is a technology which helps a soft membrane like the silk to extend the frequency range up to 30 kilohertz. What this technology does is basically touching the apex of the dome, because what happens in a dome design is that when the tweeter is moving, it's a micro movement, but it's still moving, the apex of the dome does this. And this movement in the apex of the dome is cancelling the higher frequency. So this is not happening clearly with hard domes like aluminum domes or beryllium domes, but for our experience, those materials are not reproducing a very natural sound. They are reproducing a lot of detail, but sometimes is a little bit artifact. So very classic Sonus Faber recipe with a modern technology, basically. Those speakers are 100% made in Italy in our factory, and now that we have also the wood shop inside the factory, we are able to control every part of the development of the speaker and also its construction. In particular, the Homage series is using our classic high gloss finish, which is 11 layers of painting, and each bench of production of these cabinets require 1 month to be done. Then, of course, we have leather on the front, and we are using aluminum milling from blocks, basically for the head, the base, and the back of the speaker. Okay, now I will play some tracks, maybe different from the tracks we heard with the Duetto. The first track is a track that is a very old recording from an Italian singer, so it's not a perfect recording at all. But again, this is a track that I was listening a lot with my grandfather when we were together in a shop.
Sospiro d'amore chiaro chiaro, parola dolce per innamorare.